Hi. I thought I would talk to you this morning. It is another beautiful, unseasonably warm 90 degree, almost 90-degree morning. And I discovered today that I have a lot of brown in my wardrobe. Brown is like what is that word? Like my neutral, like in the brown family. Those are kind of my neutrals, but a lot of browns. So I gotta like shake it up now that it's spring and we're getting into spring and we're having summer weather. But today, oh my gosh, I had quite the morning. I was in a meeting with a colleague, and Archie, out of the corner of my eye, I see kind of skulk into the office, and he looks really guilty and sad. And then the minute I clocked that, the wave of smell hit me in the face. And I had to wrap up that meeting, and he had had diarrhea all over the floor. I'm very grateful it wasn't on the carpet. And I cleaned it all up, opened up some windows, lit my orange blossom candle. And poor guy, this happens every single time I travel. This is a very consistent issue. So if anybody has any advice on a very nervous, emotionally sensitive dog's bowels, I would really appreciate any advice. But something it's really been on my mind and I wanted to talk about in this vlog is actually about community and about creating community and friendships, and what does that look like as things change, and what are some, I don't know, I would say some best practices. I sound very corporate right now. Sorry. But like, what are some things that have kind of helped me with this whole topic? The bird sounds so nice. I love it. Well, I can't tell you why exactly it's been on my mind. I think it's been because I've had a few conversations lately. One in particular where the person left me a voice note, which I love. I love voice notes. Not everybody does. That's one challenge with friendships I've noticed is people have different preferences when it comes to modes of communication. But we'll get to that in a second. But this person left me an awesome voice note, and this person said, please forgive me for being so late to respond and for being out of touch. And I said to her, sweetheart, if I didn't forgive everybody who didn't respond to me in the timing that I wanted them to respond to, or who didn't respond in the way I wanted them to respond to, I would have literally not a single friend in my life. Now, I have had to really change my stance and really change how I show up around this topic, because I used to take things extremely personally. And when I'm stressed, I still have that part of me that rears its ugly head and tries to tell me that you haven't heard from that person because they're mad at you. You haven't heard from that person because you did something and so they don't want to talk to you anymore. You haven't heard from them because the last time you talked, you said this, that, and the other, and they didn't like it. And so now you just don't fit into their life anymore, right? So my mind loves to start up those pieces of critique. And I know I'm not alone in that. I know that I cannot be the only person that has that challenge. And what I would say back, and what I do say back to that voice is, you know, if I hurt somebody's feelings, if somebody no longer wants to be my friend, if somebody no longer wants me in their life, it's their responsibility to share that with me, because guess what? I'm not psychic. I'm not. I'm responsible for my own impact on people. I'm responsible for my own communication to people. But if I have hurt or injured someone in some way, or I no longer fit into someone's life, it's actually their responsibility to tell me. It shouldn't be up to me to guess. And that's where we hear that concept of being clear is being kind. And I am a huge fan of it. A lot of people, though, that is not possible for them. That's not the family culture they grew up with. Being clear in that way or having those tough conversations is actually, it's like tantamount to like stabbing themselves. Like it is so hard. So we can't necessarily expect that from everyone. So, just another thing that says, well, being a human is not easy. Being a human has its really hard pieces. And one of those hard pieces is how relationships change. I have a lot of, I like to say, room on the bench at the moment for friends because my friends right now we're all in such um, busy times of our lives. I have friends who have multiple children and partners that travel all the time, and they work in the home. They are managing all their children, all the schedules, everything that keeps their lives running. And that schedule that they lead doesn't usually click very well with my schedule and my availability. Then I have friends who they travel all the time. Their jobs or other things are taking them out of the country all, it seems like, every month. And I have friends who really have a hard time with keeping in touch. It's something that's really challenging for them for many reasons. And they have spoken to me sometimes about that. I have friends on different time zones, right? I have friends on the East Coast and in different time zones than I'm in. And so the whole rhythm and pattern of our days is different. I have friends who, it's one of those things where it's like, we're just not going to be really friends and really in touch right now. Just right now, it's just life is not, it's not like offering us all those opportunities to be together and do things together. So there's a lot of room on my roster for friendship. And I've been one of those people who has always dreamt of having what I see in the movies and what I see on TV. I want to have that community and that deep group of friends. I would always rather have a few very profound, deep friendships than like a big pool of more shallow friends. And this is a conversation I've had with so many people um, in different points in my life. And one thing I remember my mom, has always told me is, I got my she's like, Andrea, I got my really good friends through you, through your school, and through the friends that you were friends with and becoming friends with their parents. That hasn't really happened for me as much as it's happened for other friends of mine. And I have to say, one of the reasons is my daughter is not involved in a sports team. Now, that is a huge way a lot of people that I know have found their friend group is because their child is in an intense club or sport. And so their time, and now we're hearing a helicopter. So even with a microphone, you're probably hearing it. So thank you for sticking with me. They are always at practice. And so they're seeing the same group of people all the time. And so that's one of the tips and tricks people say about making friends is get involved and be in something that has you with the same group of people on this kind of a repetitive cadence. We can't all do that. I have other friends and a colleague of mine who it's based on their neighborhood. Where they live and their neighbors is such an incredible, strong community that they have these built-in friends that are friends out of proximity and then out of a lot of other things. They have these incredible stories about what they went through as a community or as a street or as a neighborhood during COVID. And that COVID only bolstered and strengthened all of these friendships and relationships. And so they are so lucky. I'm so jealous of people who have kind of these incredible neighborhood stories and they have friends like at their fingertips. So I've always like dreamed and candidly been jealous of people who seem to have that, who seem to have this group and posse of girls that they do this and that with, and they go on trips with, and they do that. And it has eluded me. It has eluded me my whole life. So it seems that maybe that's just not something that's going to be for me. But I'm hopeful that I have made a new friend recently who I think and I hope is going to be a friend for a long time. And that has been through my daughter's school. And we have a lot in common. We're both divorced and remarried, and we are both from New York. And so that is amazing. And like, what are the chances, We are making some changes to some of the things my daughter's involved in, which are going to require me and her father and my husband to be a lot more involved with a specific community. So I'm just like so hopeful that we can find some friends in this community that's going to kind of throw us together anyway and require us to kind of be involved with each other. So, those are just some thoughts that I'm having on friendship and community. And I'm probably going to have more thoughts that I want to share with you. But I also just wanted to share this beautiful morning. And I hope we can hear the birds chirping together. And I'm going to take you along with me, like I always do, for what's going on this week. So, some things that are going on this week are, let's see, let me think. We've got a shoot on Saturday that is for something that my husband and I are working on. And when I say shoot, it makes it sound like it's like, I don't know, this professional like Hollywood team of people. That's not what this is. Yes, there are professionals. And it's for something that we're doing. And so I will show you what I can show you. So that's going to be going on this weekend. And we just have a lot of different activities. And I'm trying to think of anything exciting that I'm doing during the week that I could take you to. But it's probably just going to be things like I'm going to show you some things that I'm cooking, some things that are helping me get food in my body and on the table. And we're always going to talk about some books and books that I'm interested in. I just actually dropped off 2 books that you've seen me mention before at a friend's house. And I have a whole bunch of books to drop off and share with other friends. And I really love that I'm doing that. That's something that makes me feel like I'm adding and kind of like contributing to the lives of other people in like a positive, meaningful way. But they will have to be the ones to tell me if it's positive or meaningful at all. But that's it for now.
Hi! It is getting to be the evening time, and I wanted to talk about the topic of aging. And I'm turning 44. I think I mentioned I'm turning 44 next week. And I was talking with my boss today briefly, and we were talking about how it's my birthday next week. And I said to her, I love aging. And she was like, are you joking? I think you're kidding. She's younger than I am. And I said, no. I said, because the alternative to aging is that I am no longer on this planet. It means I'm gone. I've left the earth, and I'd rather be on the earth. My attitude is I'm thrilled that I'm still living and I'm still on the earth to be aging. You know what I mean? I'm like, to me, that makes a lot of sense in my mind. A couple of things about it are, I think, as women, I'm 44, so women in a certain age group, no matter where we go, things are targeting us everywhere about our aging, and products upon products upon products of every single kind are continually just kind of pushed at us to do something about our aging, to do something about all the aspects of aging, everything from perimenopause and the symptoms and things involved in that, to our mobility and our bones and our protein intake and our firmness of our skin, and the list goes on, right? The list goes on. And I think just being super aware of the fact that you as a woman of a certain age are being targeted for ads of certain products, and just kind of knowing that, right? And understanding that can really affect the way that you think about yourself and the way that you think about aging. And one thing that I also know impacts, because I talk to my friends, I talk to people, and I think actually there's 2 things that I think also really factor into how a woman thinks about aging and herself aging. One of them is how her mother handled aging and what was modeled to her at home growing up, with your mother and what your mother chose to do or not do, and how she talked to herself or didn't talk to herself. And so that's going to impact. And then the second thing is where you live in the country. So I happen to live in a place that is plastic surgery central. I live in Orange County, Southern California. If I lived in LA, it'd be the same thing. And I remember a friend of mine who lived in DC came to visit me for a couple days, and we've been driving around, I was showing her all different places, and she just was like, the amount of plastic surgery offices and medical spas and things like that. She was like, it's just unbelievable. And sometimes I forget. And so where you are in the country and what is around you all the time can seem normal. And so when you live, I have found, again, I'm being from New York and now having lived here a long time, it's really important for me to do things like leave Orange County and kind of leave this bubble and see a lot more diversity, first of all, and secondly, just a lot more variety in how women are choosing to age. And I would say another thing that factors into it is how often you're looking at yourself on camera. So I have a job that I am on Teams meetings like all day long, having to look at myself. And now I'm choosing to do this and make these videos. So I have to look at myself. And a couple of things that I did do recently was, the first thing I did was I found these amazing videos from a creator she is a dermatologist, a board certified dermatologist. She's also a business owner and innovator. She's Dr. Samantha Ellis, and she started, I think it's called Prequel, and I use a bunch of their skincare products. And she did a series on aging recently, and there was one that was about makeup. And I started doing my makeup differently. And I had somebody comment on that today. One of my colleagues, a friend of mine, she was like, "You look so pretty." And I was like, "Thank you, I'm doing my makeup differently." And so that's one thing. And I could try to see if YouTube will let me link that series in my description. But if I can't, just look up Dr. Samantha Ellis on YouTube if you're curious. And then the second thing I did do was I hadn't had Botox. Last time I had Botox was in June for my wedding. So it's March now. So that's the last time I had it, was in June. And I hadn't had filler in about 2 years. And I decided to get both of those things done recently. And what's so funny is my husband can't tell a difference at all. No difference. My mom is the first one. She always will be till the day she is no longer with us, unfortunately. She will be the one to notice. She notices every single thing about me. Every single thing about me. And it's a gift and a curse, right? So she noticed, she's like, and she was like, and then when I said, "Oh, I went and got something done," and she's like, "Yeah, you'd been looking a little drawn. And I was like, "Okay." Thank you, Mom. But I think that this doctor did a great job, and I'm going to be seeing her this week for a follow-up, just to make sure. It's the first time she's injected me, so she kind of wants to see how everything's settled, because all these things take weeks to settle. It actually hasn't even fully baked and settled, and all of those metaphors into my face. But those are the things that you can choose to do or not do. I mean, depending on your budget. I mean, there's just so many things. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is be so aware of everything that is impacting how you are feeling about aging. So that's my biggest takeaway. Hi, got Archie here with me, he is feeling better, which I'm so happy about. No baby, but I unfortunately am still not. So it's been harder to film. It's been harder to film, hasn't it? Because I have not been, oh, baby, my goodness, your passion for me. Okay, let's see. So yeah, so he's been feeling better. Hope I don't jinx it by saying that. But I have not been, and it has made it, sweetie, no, I just put lipstick on. I know. That's made it more challenging for filming. And it is another beautiful day. Today I made a lot of effort to look cute and sophisticated and bring some of that inspiration from Paris, even though I didn't get to participate much in it. Livening up my brown wardrobe. So I wanted to tell you about some things that are going to happen this week that I hope to be able to take you along and show you. My husband and I have our date night tonight. So we had a really, really good rhythm of it because leading up to getting married, which we were married in June. So leading up to getting married and then in like those immediate married stages, we were going every other week to our counselor. To a marriage counselor that a good friend of mine, luckily I got like a recommendation and a friend of mine recommended and she had availability to see us. So that was really great luck. So we go to see her, but now we don't go to see her as often. And so we kind of got out of the rhythm of having a date night. And I think part of that reason is we didn't really want to always be going to a restaurant every Thursday night and spending the money, and then also for health reasons. So we kind of got out of it. And the problem is when you're at home, I don't know about you, but if you're at home, there's constant pulls on your attention. It doesn't matter. It's like I try to do things to make it datey, and I enjoy doing that. I loved doing that, like my lighting and my candles and cooking something special. But even so, sometimes that'll work. And I'm sorry you're hearing the dog scratch himself to death in the background. Sorry about that. But even doing that, it's just you're constantly being pulled in all these other directions. And you are thinking about the to-do list and the calendar and the tasks. And that's actually not something that I want. He and I don't want that to be a focus of a date night. That's really time for us to talk about bigger things, like things that we're dreaming about, and just other ways for us to connect. Isn't really talking about schedules, to-dos, and tasks, right? So I'm very happy. That's all to say that I'm really happy that we have counseling because we haven't had it in a while due to scheduling and travel, especially on his part. And we are going to be going to a really nice place for dinner afterwards. And I might not even be able to eat much of anything, but it'll be just really fun to kind of go and be in that environment. So right now I'm existing on popsicles and peppermint tea and chicken noodle soup that my husband brought me yesterday, brought like a couple of containers. So that was great. So I can't really veer off of that diet, I have realized that. I can't veer off or else there's trouble. So that's what we're going to be... Archie! Oh my goodness. That's what we're going to be doing today. And tomorrow I have something at my daughter's school, so that'll be really cute, and spending time with her. So that's a little bit about what's coming up this week. And Archie right now is literally... Archie! He's just like trying to eat everything in sight. So I'm going to have to stop filming us right now. And I will see you later. Happy end of the week to all. I am still in 90+ degree weather, hence the wardrobe that I'm about to go to my daughter's school for something, and she's not going to be pleased about my wardrobe choices. But my explanation to her is that it is really hot, and her school does not have air conditioning. It doesn't. Yeah, and it's like really hot where her school is. So I'm just like, I have to be prepared. She's very modest, which I love about my daughter. My friend calls her a modest queen. And she doesn't like showing arms, shoulders, your neck, doesn't like showing any of that. So she's not going to be too thrilled with me. But anyway, my husband and I had a great evening last night, and I think high point was that I could actually eat, and I ate like a ravenous dog at the restaurant that I showed you that we went to. That's it. I ate like I hadn't eaten in days, which basically I haven't. So was making up for lost time. And I have to say, I have very high standards for lobster rolls. I'm from the East Coast. I lived in Connecticut for several years, and they do a couple things right, okay? One of them is a lobster roll, and the New England style lobster roll. So I do have high standards. There is a place that opened in Orange County at an area that I really like to go to it's like the New England style lobster roll. Need to try it. The one at this restaurant, I wouldn't recommend. I wouldn't order it again. It was really subpar, in my opinion, right? For someone who maybe didn't live in New England and doesn't have that context, they might love that lobster roll, but I wouldn't recommend ordering that there. So we were able to have a nice time. I was actually able to eat real food. I even ordered dessert because I didn't get to do that in Paris. I ordered this creme brulee that was excellent. Creme brulee is one of my favorite desserts. For some people, they don't like it. It's like a texture thing, which I totally get. I have a lot of those particularities myself, but I love a good creme brulee. I would say the only negative about yesterday was that our marriage counselor told us she's retiring. And I'm really like, I'm gonna miss her. My husband was like, well, I'm so glad we're not like in a crisis, and we're not, going, oh my God, how are we gonna exist, without our marriage counselor, and trying to, find a new one and the whole thing. But we are gonna get referrals from her for someone else, because he and I both believe so strongly in I would say, how do I want to put this? I was also talking about this with my colleague yesterday also. He and I were talking about this. So I've had two kind of conversations recently about, I would say, like safeguarding your marriage and kind of practices and guardrails to kind of put around your marriage to do all you can to see it be healthy and to see it flourish and to see it be something that is a really positive and good place for both people, and to have that guidance from a professional and have an unbiased professional with years and years and years of experience, counseling couples, and who's able to really get where you're at in your relationship, really understand your goals, understand how your goals as a couple evolve. All of that stuff is so important and so tricky. It is not easy to find a great counselor. Full stop. But here's what I want to encourage you with. If you're someone who is listening to this going, I've thought about it. I think it would be a healthy practice for my partner and I to employ on a monthly check-in basis, on a bi-weekly basis, on a weekly basis, whatever that looks like. I just so encourage you to keep trying, and to also figure out who in your trusted circle you would be willing to raise the topic of this. And it may surprise you that they may know of a referral. with this one. This is the one I talked about before. It's Lost Connections. It's actually a line that I want to read out loud because so good. It just was, such a good line. I want to see if this resonates with you. This is in very early on in the book. This is actually just in the introduction, which is awesome. So he says, he's talking about stuff that he's thinking about investigating. So he says, still, I put off looking into it. Once you settle into a story about your pain, you are extremely reluctant to challenge it. It was like a leash I had put on my distress to keep it under some control. I feared that if I messed with the story I had lived with for so long, the pain would be like an unchained animal and would savage me. Wow, I feel that so deeply. And I wanted to talk about how I mentioned I think the first episode about that I'm gonna look into EMDR therapy, and I encourage you to do your own research on that because I am not a professional, but I am someone who has really believe in going to professionals and getting professional guidance and professional help to support you emotionally, mentally, and physically. And there are so many modalities in which to do that. So encourage you to find licensed, credentialed, vetted, and experienced people to give you that advice. All right. I am going to be calling that person. This is such a great reminder. Just talking to you guys about this is such a great reminder because of all the to-dos and all the things we have going on. It's just so easy to forget prioritizing this. And so as I'm talking to you, I'm going, oh yeah, I want to call that person. I have their number. I want to call that person today and leave them a message and start that process. So again, just so recommend this book, but also want to talk about this one, which has been around for a while, and it's now in paperback. So that's another reason why I want to talk about it, because I bet you can find the hardcover or the paperback. You can find it used. I love to get books on Thrift Books. That's a great website. And then I also love, like I've said before, to share books and to send them around and pass them around and send them to family members and stuff like that. So The God of the Woods by Liz Moore is an example of a book that is all encompassing and completely brings you into a world that you want to stay in as a reader. And it's like, I don't even know how to explain it. Other people explain it better, so I'm gonna read a couple of those. But before I do that, I owned this book. I read it as an ebook on my phone, which now I'm like, reading it in a real book form is going to be it's going to be an even better experience, an even better reading experience for me personally. I could not barely put this book down, and it reminds me, I can't believe someone else said it, so I will read it. It says, I'm reading the inside cover. Extraordinary. Reminds me of Donna Tartt's 1992 debut, The Secret History. Yes, it does. That's an incredible book. I was so thoroughly submerged in a rich fictional world that for hours I barely came up for air. That is NPR. I'm going to read a couple more. Her fictional summer camp felt as vivid to me as my own. The New York Times. Completely agree with that. I was a summer camp person. I was a summer camp counselor. So completely agree. An unusually gratifying reading experience. 3 days after you turn that last page, your head is still half in it. It's as if you can smell the pine and wood smoke. The Minnesota Star Tribune. Yes. So this book is a mystery, but it's more than that. I think I've mentioned mystery is my absolute favorite genre of pretty much anything. Mystery is my favorite genre. Another favorite genre is World War II. When those two come together, incredible. This is not World War II. I'm going to read you just the bit of the back. Early morning, August 1975, a camp counselor discovers an empty bunk. Its occupant, Barbara Van Laar, has gone missing. Barbara isn't just any 13-year-old. She's the daughter of the family that owns the summer camp and employs most of the region's residents. And this isn't the first time a Van Laar child has disappeared. Barbara's older brother similarly vanished 14 years ago, never to be found. So it is just so good, and reading it in a real version is worth it. So highly recommend this book, and highly recommend this book. And with that, I am going to go, and what I'm going to try to do is show you a little bit of the shoot that we're doing, but I may not be able to. So our time together might end right now if I'm not able to show you some of the shoot. Okay. So I talked to the production team about tomorrow's shoot, and it's not going to work out for me to share that with you. So sorry that I mentioned it, because now I'm not going to be able to share it, but don't worry. There will be more things. There will be a lot more things to share. And this is the end, though, of this episode. No, let's try that again. Thank you for spending time with me this week, and I hope that I got to keep you company in some way, and I hope that you enjoyed our time together. See you next time. Bye.